Okay, just picking up on what I was saying in the last video about philosophy as a noun and then philosophy as a verb, that is actively owning the philosophy that you end up espousing in life, okay? It's interesting that philosophy, and I'm not the first to say this, existential philosophers have said this goes all the way back to Plato. Philosophy is an activity that's peculiar to the human being, right? We're the only beings that philosophize in a certain sense, right? And existentialist philosophers put it this way. They say not only is philosophy the philosophical act peculiar to the human beings are the only beings that have their being to be. Human beings are the only beings that have their being to be. What does that mean? It means we're the only beings that not only inquire about the underlying structures of the world, right? But we also, and about what morality is and what good and bad is and whether there's a God and whether there's meaning, but we also inquire about who we are, right? So that's really the question of anthropology. And if you think about it this way, we're the only being that says, what does it mean to be a human being? Or what does it mean to be this being, right? Something interesting, an interesting way to put it would be, the question of what it means to be a human being is answered in the very activity of philosophizing. Or the question of what it means to be a human being is answered in the very asking of the question. What does it mean to be a human being? That's what it means to be a human being, namely the being that asks what it means to be a human being. In other words, we're performing something about our nature here. We're performing something when we ask the question what it means to be human. This is what it means to be human, to ask the question what it means to be human. Or what does it mean to be human? It means to engage in this kind of self-reflective thought, okay? We're the only being, scientists tell us, that is capable of not only rational thinking. There's some evidence that crows and certain kind of birds and maybe some chimpanzees can approximate to rational thinking. We'll talk about what that is later. But we're the only being that not only thinks, but we think about thinking. And that's what's known as metacognition. Metacognition, like the word metaphysics, means to go beyond. Metaphysics means metaphysica, to go beyond the physical. But metacognition means to go beyond cognition, to take your own cognition and go beyond cognition, to think about what it means to think. That's what we're going to be doing in the class. Thinking about thinking and doing it in a disciplined manner. And in turn, actualizing, if you will, our own nature as human beings, as the beings that philosophize, as the beings that have their being to be, and the beings that question their own existence, okay? It's as if the human being is the being that can become strange to itself. We're the only being that can question our own nature. St. Augustine puts it this way, quaestio mihi factus sum, I become a question to myself. Who am I? This is a thing that we have to work out and figure out. Every human being is faced with this difficult question about when all of a sudden, usually it happens around your adolescent years, you start becoming strange to yourself. You say, who am I? Who is this person? So I'm Duane Armitage. I remember, I don't know, when I was 13, 14, I remember thinking, who am I really? That is, who do I want to be? I sort of have a say in this. This activity where we can go meta, beyond ourselves, beyond our cognition, or beyond the physical. This is what is peculiar to the human being, to ask these kind of philosophical questions. One philosopher puts it this way, that even if we ignore these questions, they still come up anyway. They'll come up at random times. The why, Albert Camus is the philosopher, he's an existentialist philosopher. He says, the why unintentionally and necessarily and inevitably arises. He gives the example of he's sitting on a park bench watching somebody talk in a phone booth when there were still phone booths, and it's silent, the guy's going like this. And he just thinks, whoa, how weird is human existence? How strange is human existence? What the hell am I doing here? What's the purpose of existence? That is, what's the purpose of my existence? Okay? This activity of asking these questions, and not only asking them, but asking them in a disciplined manner, is what makes us human. Okay? And in turn, in other words, we can't help but ask these questions. Even if we try to push them down, they come up at other times. Okay? Religion tries to answer a lot of these questions, and it tries to do it through a more faith-based perspective. So there's certain things, certain axioms that you assume are true, like there's a God, and Muhammad is his prophet, or Jesus is his son, and then you think from those axioms. But in philosophy, we're just trying to rationally, in a disciplined manner, think about the major questions of life and see what we come up with. Okay?